Welcome, everyone. Today, our explainer is entirely focused on demystifying one of the absolute most powerful tools in modern business. We're going to explore the actual, under-the-hood logic behind predictive analytics. Okay, let's dive right into this.
Take a look at this number right here, $20 million. That's the annual revenue for a hypothetical company we're going to study today. Let's call them ANZ BioHealth. They're a highly successful, small-scale health supplement manufacturer based down in New Zealand, and they export about 90% of their products to massive markets in the US and Europe. From the outside, a $20 million turnover looks like an absolute dream, right?
But here's the wild part, and it brings us to the core paradox of today's explainer. Why on earth is a company making $20 million severely struggling with its cash flow? Well, it's a textbook example of a phenomenon known as the high turnover, tight cash flow syndrome. And to understand how to actually fix it, we first have to figure out what's secretly draining their bank accounts.
Section 1. The hidden growth tax. Let's talk about operational leaks.
So, for a lot of fast-growing export companies like ANZ BioHealth, that sky-high revenue is secretly subsidizing some massive, totally invisible operational leaks. Here is exactly where they're bleeding cash. First up, late-paying clients. International corporate buyers almost always demand 90-day payment terms, and those frequently stretch out even further, which absolutely crushes the supplier's working capital. Second, unpredictable logistics. Being based in New Zealand means super long transit times, so a sudden spike in ocean freight rates or port congestion, that eats right into their margins. And third, exchange rate fluctuations. Making millions in US dollars doesn't mean much if the conversion rate back to New Zealand dollars suddenly plummets. Right now, this company is operating entirely reactively. They're just sitting there, waiting for these hits to happen.
Section 2. Rear view versus windshield. Time for a paradigm shift.
To plug up these operational leaks, businesses need a complete paradigm shift. Think about it like this. Driving a business by only looking at historical month-end reports, that is literally like driving a car at highway speeds while staring straight into your rearview mirror. You're only calculating the damage after the crash has already happened. Predictive analytics, on the other hand, is your windshield. It's a proactive system that gives you real-time risk detection. It gives you the power to spot a potential loss and completely avoid it before a contract is even signed or before a ship even leaves the port.
Section 3. The logic of prediction. How we combine this data.
Okay, so how do we actually build this predictive windshield? Well, the crucial point is how these completely distinct data sets marry together. When you take your standard internal data from your accounting software, things like your invoice history, past transit times, or daily transaction values, and you add external context via APIs, things like the local inflation rate in your client's country, global port congestion, or currency sentiment, that's where the magic happens. When you combine internal habits with external macroeconomics, the system output gives you highly actionable intelligence. We're talking about a precise client risk score, a proactive shipping recommendation, or an automated hedging alert.
I know. It's so easy to hear terms like AI or predictive analytics and instantly think of some magic, futuristic black box. But the reality is, and this is a great quote to remember, it's not magic, it's just applied mathematics. We are simply using established algorithms to crunch millions of data points to find patterns of loss that are totally invisible to the human eye. Let's geek out on the actual math models for a second. A really fascinating one to start with is logistic regression. This specific algorithm is perfect for evaluating cash flow risks because it predicts binary probabilities. Basically, will this invoice be paid on time, which is a 0, or, well, actually will it be late, which is a 1? The algorithm calculates that exact probability by assigning weights to variables like the size of the invoice, the client's historical delays, and the macroeconomic stability in that client's country.
Now, for the logistics side of things, we turn to a model called ARIMA, which stands for Autoregressive Integrated Moving Average. This algorithm is basically designed to predict future movements based on time series data. So for ANZ BioHealth, ARIMA can look at historical shipping data, seasonal port congestion, and weather patterns, and accurately predict, say, a 35% freight cost spike in Los Angeles 3 months from now. Knowing that allows the company to proactively front-load 3 months of inventory before the prices surge. It's a massive competitive advantage.
And what about those brutal exchange rate fluctuations? Enter GARCH. Now, unlike models that try to predict an exact future price, GARCH is insanely good at predicting the volatility levels of a currency. If GARCH predicts that the New Zealand dollar is about to become highly volatile against the US dollar next month, the company gets an alert to execute a forward contract with their bank today. They lock in the current exchange rate, which completely protects their net margins from massive currency risks.
Section 4. Simulating a real-world risk.
Let's run a concrete scenario.
All right, let's set the stage here. Imagine an order comes in from a major German distributor named Eurofarm. They want 600,000 US dollars worth of goods, and they are requesting the standard 90-day payment terms. In a normal reactive business model, what happens? The sales team pops champagne, the factory ships the goods, and everyone just crosses their fingers hoping Eurofarm pays in 3 months so they don't run out of cash. Cue the nervous sweating, right?
But remember, ANZ BioHealth has our predictive windshield installed. So the system processes this invoice and bam, it instantly flags an 88% chance of default. Now what's really interesting about this slide is how the math combined 3 very distinct variables to flag this massive risk. First, a volume anomaly. Eurofarm normally orders $60,000, so $600K? That is a huge, highly unusual jump. Second, a deteriorating habit. Eurofarm's past payments have recently slipped from being just 2 days late to 15 days late. And third, macro pressure. German inflation just rose by 1.5%, meaning Eurofarm's products probably aren't selling as fast locally, trapping their cash in inventory. Put it all together, and it's the perfect storm for a defaulted payment.
So instead of just blindly shipping the goods, the predictive logic instantly triggers a prescriptive business action. The system essentially tells the sales team, hey, reject the 90-day terms. Instead, require 40% down payment up front or get an irrevocable letter of credit. By demanding this, ANZ BioHealth secures $240,000 in cash instantly, rather than waiting 120 days and completely suffocating their own operations.
Section 5. Automating the analytics. Let's look at the daily workflow.
Here is the final piece of the puzzle. We have to seamlessly integrate this logic into a daily workflow so it actually helps employees instead of just adding more busy work. We can automate this entire sequence using an integration platform like Make.com, which essentially acts as the company's nervous system. And this brilliantly illustrates how fast it all happens. In under 5 seconds, a newly drafted invoice triggers the workflow. The system fetches the client's history from the accounting software, it pulls the latest German inflation data via an API, sends all of that over to our predictive model to calculate the risk score, and finally, a router automatically splits the workflow based on whether the risk is high or low.
Now, if that router catches an 88% risk score, just like our Eurofarm example, it goes into immediate lockdown mode. It fires off a Slack message straight to the finance team's alert channel. It automatically updates the invoice inside the Xero accounting software with an urgent internal note so it can't be sent, and it emails the sales team with all the data they need to renegotiate the terms. All of this happens in seconds, stopping a financially disastrous shipment before a single box ever leaves the warehouse in New Zealand.
So, by replacing pure guesswork with applied mathematics, predictive analytics takes these massive, invisible global risks and shrinks them down into manageable daily operational steps. So I'll leave you with this final thought to consider for your own operations. Are you driving your business looking in the rearview mirror, or is it time to finally build your windshield? Thank you so much for joining this explainer, and keep learning.